Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we take you through the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. The 2024 F1 season may be over, but there's plenty of stories going on as we head into the Christmas period. This week we bring you the news that Max Verstappen won't be given a penalty for his comments about the stewards in Abu Dhabi, why both Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda have had Red Bull auditions ahead of 2025, and we cover the multiple controversies happening in the FIA. Again, all that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. So, Formula 1 is the richest motorsport in the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut of motorsport action. But apparently, their governing body, the FIA, the Fédération Internationale Automobile over in France, cannot afford paid stewards for Formula 1 races. Yes, I'm being deadly serious here. Apparently they can't. Let's have a look at this, guys, because this is just laughable to say the least. But let's have a look at the reasoning. Oh, look at us, we're so poor, we can't afford it, despite governing the world's most profitable motorsport. Probably one of the most profitable motorsports, but definitely the richest in terms of turnover, no doubt. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always, guys. Gunter Steiner has said that the stewarding situation in F1 is its biggest gripe about the sport at the moment. Inconsistency in stewards' decisions, particularly when it comes to penalties, became a hot topic in 2024. It was not a new topic though, it's something that we've been talking about for years, but it was very bad this year at times, even attracting the criticism of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. Steiner, the former Haas team boss, fully agrees with this. When asked about Oost France, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, I do apologise, don't speak French, newspaper to reveal what he would change about F1 today, he answered, "I would like the stewards to be permanent employees so we have consistency in the penalties that are issued. F1 is one of the biggest sports in the world, so I don't think it's fair to say they are not full-time employees. Football have referees, they're paid for it. Responsibility must be awarded." According to FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem, oh yes, love this guy. However, the Paris-based federation simply does not have the money to train, develop and then pay permanent race stewards. Are you joking? I understand the interest in having professional stewards, he said, but we don't have the money for that. Right, okay. Relatively short article, but this is spoiler alert. This is going to have quite a few thoughts from me after I've actually read the thing out. So maybe Mohammed, perhaps let me just suggest something. How about you use those race fines that you keep bringing up all the time, that you keep doing? How about you get those fines that are going towards the drivers, the ones that we don't know where they go? You know, how about you use some of those? How about you actually use Formula 1 teams maybe to pay for the stewards? They've got thousands of employees, all of them, or at least all of them have got at least hundreds of employees. If the F1 teams really want this, then maybe allow them the opportunity to do it. Maybe they can pay for it, or at least partly pay for it, you know? Maybe it could come out of the TV revenue from F1. I don't know. F1 is a lot of things, but it has a lot of money. Now that's a lot of money. They have loads of it, right? They are flush for cash. They go to some of the most questionable countries in the world and they effectively get paid off to go there. They have the money, they just don't want to use it. I cannot believe that he's come out and said this. I'm sorry, MBS, you are a barefaced liar. There is no way that the FIA don't have the money for this. F1 certainly does. And to employ these stewards, I mean, I think there should be permanent race stewards. I've said this multiple times. I feel like that way it'd be more consistent. Because otherwise you've got different people's interpretations of different things. And that's going to lead to inconsistencies. That's just natural. They're human. You know, I don't want to have a go at them because of that. And it doesn't help all the accusations about bias and stuff like that. Because you get some stewards at some race weekends and some at another. And if, say, for example, hypothetically, Johnny Herbert, the man who's probably coming for the most kind of flack really when it comes to decisions, you know, if he's on the stewarding panel and say, for example, Max Verstappen gets a penalty, then there's going to be all the accusations of, oh, well, Herbert's on the panel, of course he got a penalty, you know, and whether that be correct or wrong, people are going to think it. Simple as that. So I think there should be permanent race stewards. I think the FIA can afford it. I think they're lying. I just think they don't want to do it for whatever reason, because clearly they don't have no intent of doing it, and I don't understand why. I mean, but what I will say is that it's not the silver bullet having permanent referees, because I mean football's different because you've got different matches and different situations. Like, one referee doesn't referee all of the games, so you do get inconsistency with that. So I do admit that would probably be better for F1. It would be more consistent. It's not perfect though. People are still going to make mistakes, but I think it would definitely improve things. But what do you guys think? Is the FIA, have they run out of money? Don't they have any money to pay for F1 stewards, or do you think that they definitely do? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So, sanity has prevailed at the FIA. I know, this is incredible. I never saw this coming, guys, but it's true. It's happened. Max Verstappen hasn't been given a penalty for his comments about the FIA stewards at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, I already, of course, brought you the story there and the opinion piece, really, that I thought that he should not get a penalty for it. There was very much a cloud hanging over him after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, with the threat of some more community service, or man's going off to jail, or what. I have no idea what they would have done to him. Probably give him a speeding ticket. I have no idea. But it turns out they've done nothing. They have decided to not give him a penalty, which is great news. Now let's have a look at this, guys. Full article on the F1chronicle.com. Max Verstappen is set to escape additional penalties for calling F1 stewards stupid idiots over the radio during the Abu Dhabi season finale. The quadruple world champion already needs to serve his community service, a penalty for using the F word in an official press conference this season, whilst in Rwanda later this week for FIA's prize-giving gala event. And after his 20-second penalty for colliding with Oscar Piastri on lap 1, it should be 10 seconds. It was a 10-second stop-go, 10-second penalty that got added on in his pit stop. Verstappen is now sitting on 8 super license penalty points, with 4 more points before next June to earn him an automatic race ban. So he's basically, for you guys that don't know, the super license is what you use to race in Formula 1. If you make crashes or do anything bad during races or whatever, you can get penalty points on your super license as well. Kevin Magnussen served a race ban, the first person to do so for these super license points. He did that during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend because he was banned for that one. So Verstappen's not that far away. Verstappen is potentially 2-3 incidents away from getting a race ban, and I think that's a bit farcical, to be honest, but this is the situation that Formula 1 has found itself in. Red Bull team advisor Dr. Helmut Marko says the situation means that Verstappen needs to be careful from now on, adding that his radio criticism of the stewards wasn't very diplomatic. Former F1 test driver Ho Pin Tung, never heard of him, though, thinks that the Dutchman was at least justified in being upset about the 20-second time penalty. It was 10 seconds. I'm sure it was 10 seconds, wasn't it? It was 10 seconds added on. According to the regulations, he told nu.nl. The stewards could have given 5 seconds. In the past, it probably would have been that, especially as Max spun as well. It was also lap 1, the Chinese Dutch racing driver added. Verstappen's 2024 title rival Lando Norris, however, thinks that the mistake was a turning point. It showed that not everything he does is perfect. Norris insists he has learned from his defeat this year and is now ready to take on Verstappen for the 2025 title. Former F1 driver Christian Albers finds it interesting that Norris has taken a harder line stance for Verstappen in recent weeks. I will just add to that as well what Norris said before. Apparently the drivers did ask for the stewards to be more harsh on these kinds of incidents where there are poor driving standards, for lack of a better term, basically. And that's what they've done, in fairness. There was a lot of 10-second penalties during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where literally a few weeks ago, I think they would have been 5-second penalties. So the stewards have listened. But maybe the F1 drivers are regretting requesting that now. Norris insists that he is... Oh, already read that one. Norris always pretends that he and Verstappen are friends. But of course, they're all hypocrites. He told Telegraph, hey, get off the fence, Christian, what are you doing? It's obvious that guys like Hamilton and Lando are standing behind George Russell, Albers added, referring to the high-profile war of words with Verstappen. As for the stupid idiots insult, many insiders expect the FIA to frown upon the public criticism of its officials, but sources report that the governing body has decided to let the incident pass. It follows a meeting just days ago between Verstappen and the FIA's controversial president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. The conversation was initiated by Max and his manager, not by the FIA, reports respected Dutch journalist Eric van Haren, who is close to the Verstappen clan. As for the FIA president, you of course want to have a sit down and a cup of coffee with one of the figureheads of the sport, he added. Alba's admitted he has not been very impressed with Ben Sulayem recently. Join the club, Alba. The way he said that he doesn't have to answer to the drivers, said the former Minardi driver. The drivers had asked where all the money from the fines goes, and then you see the aggressive, almost rude way he answered. He forgets that it is the teams who keep the FIA alive in the first place. He is obviously not transparent. Yeah, it's the classic thing, isn't it, really? It's that old phrase, if you've got nothing to fear, why are you hiding it, you know? If you've got nothing to hide, then you've done nothing wrong. But clearly, he's wanting to hide something, so they might well have done something wrong. We don't know. We don't know. I'm just saying it's a possibility. And we know that. But at the end of the day, we can't prove anything. And yeah, it's just a bit sad, really, what's happened with that. It's like the FIA president's just a joke. And I've already gone into all the not all the controversies, but a lot of the controversies around MBS. And I think smartly, for once, the FIA has decided to stay out of this. They don't need to get involved with it. And thankfully they haven't. So good news, everyone. Verstappen's not going to get punished for that radio outburst, which, yeah, of course, was, you know, not great. But at the end of the day, should it be punishable? No, absolutely not. The guy's in the heat of the moment. As for Norris's comments on Verstappen are quite interesting as well in that article. What I will say is that I think personally, it just shows that Verstappen's human after all. Don't put the blame on him, as Rag and Bone Man famously said. I'm pretty sure it's Rag and Bone Man anyway. The thing with Verstappen is, with that incident, I think, you know, you had the championship already wrapped up. It's not unlike drivers who've already got the title wrapped up to kind of just put the foot off the gas a little bit. I'm not saying he's done that, because obviously he won in Qatar and he tried his best in Las Vegas as well, but I think he's just made a mistake. He's just made a mistake, simple as that. Got punished for it. Some people think it's too harsh, some people think it's fair. I mean, put it this way, that incident would have been a 5-second penalty earlier in the season, but the stewards have also been told to be more harsh, so they're kind of doing what was asked of them. But was that too harsh? I don't know. How long's a piece of string? It's a very subjective thing at the end of the day, and consistency in the stewarding is something that we all want, but we're never going to get it. We're never going to, well, in my opinion, while ever there are stewards that rotate around and we don't have a consistent 3-4 stewards over how many it is at every race, we're never going to get true consistency, because we're always going to get different viewpoints and different opinions on how the sporting regulations should be applied. That's just the way it is. That's just the way that's always going to be till that changes. And will it change? Probably not. Should it change? Absolutely. Can it change? Yeah, why not? Why not? But that's just my opinion, guys. What's your take on all this? Let us know in the comments below. So it's fair to say that Valtteri Bottas has had more than a few choice words when it comes to his, well, still technically his current employers, Sauber Audi. He's recently said that he regretted moving to the team, that it's been a mistake. If he could go back and wind the clock back and go back a few years, that he would actually leave the team. And now he's actually revealed in a recent interview that he had an option to leave the team if Fred Vasseur left the team, which obviously happened, but he didn't take up that option. He instead opted to stay at the team, and the big reason for this was because he was offered the opportunity to be one of the pillars of the project for Audi when they joined properly in 2026. However, obviously, as we know, that's not going to happen. Nico Hülkenberg, Gabriel Bortoleto are their main drivers for 25 and presumably probably 26 as well, as they go into the new regulations. So Bottas's comments, you know, rubbed people up the wrong way, really, when he first said them. I was surprised by them, how harsh they were. But it all makes sense. It definitely makes sense now, because at the end of the day, if your former employer does something like that to you, you're not going to be very complimentary about them. I know I wouldn't be. And I'm not a high-profile Formula 1 driver, so I completely understand where Bottas is coming from with this. And it's just really sad, to be honest, in a sense, because I think that Bottas had a good year this year, but obviously Sauber, Audi, more importantly Audi, they're the real guys in control now. You know, they obviously feel that Bottas is not the future of the team, which, I mean, look, they'll know better than us. I mean, we know how good Bottas is from his time at Mercedes. We know that this is a guy that can really perform well in a top team. We know this is a guy that can perform well in a midfield team like Williams before. And unfortunately, the Sauber is the worst car on the grid this year, bar none. And the fact that he's got no points in the championship doesn't really reflect his season, in my opinion. He's had a better season than that. He's not been the worst driver this season. He's been a better driver overall this season than Guan Yu Zhou, his teammate. He's been a better driver than a good portion of the grid, I would say. I mean, that will be reflected in the grades that I do for everybody. Those should be out next week, I reckon. I reckon I'll have time for them then. Nice little early Christmas present for you guys. I'm sure you're looking forward to them. But yeah, it's just a bit sad, to be honest. But I don't think it's over for Bottas. You know, I think it's pretty likely that he's going to go to Mercedes as their test and reserve driver next year. And obviously in 2026, there's opportunities. There's a lot of contracts are expiring before then. You've got Cadillac Racing joining, which I think is a really realistic option for him to come back into Formula 1. So I don't think it's over for Bottas. I just feel a bit sad, to be honest. I feel a bit disappointed that it's ended this way for him, and it's just ended this acrimoniously. I mean, when he was being, I think it was when he was being wheeled onto the grid or like the formation lap or whatever, but you know how drivers give like a really nice speech and stuff when it's their final race for a team and they know it is coming into this race. But Bottas was just like, thanks Sauber, thanks Ferrari, and then that was it. You know, clearly he just did the bare minimum, and I totally get why. You know, I absolutely understand why that has happened. So Bottas's quote does absolutely reek of betrayal. Like, he was told something, he was promised something, and then it wasn't acted upon. So I completely understand why he's so annoyed. Promises were made, promises were not kept. He did his part. He beat his teammate, in my opinion, overall through this season. He should have been, in that sense, in his mind, he should have been kept on. Is Hülkenberg a better driver than Bottas? Debatable. I'd say he's had a better season this year. I think Hülkenberg's been one of the standout drivers of the whole field, to be honest. So I would say in that sense it's an upgrade, but he's not getting any younger either. They're both in the mid-30s, you know. Hulk's, I think it's like 36 now, something like that. So, but again, Alonso proves that, you know, you can still be a top driver well into your 40s. So age is but a number. But Bottas's number, his time, is up at Sauber, and it's a bit sad, really. But yeah, guys, what do you think about all this? I think very interesting quotes from Bottas. Basically sold a lie, unfortunately. So the vultures are circling, the sharks are swimming around Sergio Perez in the form of Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda. And before I get into this video, I mean that as just a bit of an image there. I'm not saying these guys are doing anything wrong. They are just looking out for their Formula 1 careers, just like any of the other drivers, just like anybody in their own jobs, in truth, you know. So let's have a look at what both of these guys have been saying, because Sergio Perez, it is fair to say, he's under a fair bit of pressure, and the rumours of him being axed ahead of the 2025 season have not gone away. Obviously, he didn't make it past the first lap in Abu Dhabi. Wasn't really his fault, to be honest, but again, the case could be made that he shouldn't be in the midfield with that car. Although, to be fair, his teammate Max Verstappen did have some contact as well in the first lap, but he survived to actually get a, what was it, a 5th or a 6th place finish? No, 6th place finish in the end for him, which wasn't too bad considering the pace of the car that weekend. Let's have a look what's been said here, guys. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com as always. Liam Lawson's smile may have given the game away as the hopeful New Zealander concluded his Formula 1 season in Abu Dhabi. He is the big favourite to replace Sergio Perez at Red Bull Racing next year, with the energy drinks brand's top brass having met to discuss the issue on Monday. For the upteenth time, there is a meeting and all the facts will be on the table, Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko said. I hope we come to a decision and then the announcement should be made soon. You will not hear any more from me, he told the Austrian broadcaster ORF. I can imagine they've had a lot of meetings about a lot of different things this season, Red Bull. A lot of things happening on the track and off it as well in particular. Multiple sources are reporting that Red Bull has definitely decided to oust the struggling Mexican driver, but need to reach an agreement with Perez and his management about terminating or modifying his signed 2025 contract. Marko is clear that Red Bull's first team must have 2 drivers who regularly score points. ORF reporter Ernst Hausleitner pointed out to the 81-year-old that Perez's final tally was a huge 285 points behind Verstappen. Mathematically, that explains everything, agreed Marko, who claims it was Perez's performance that cost Red Bull places 1 and 2 in the Constructors' Championship. Well, I mean, he's right, isn't he? And, you know, Max Verstappen was well clear in the Drivers' Championship. If Sergio Perez was anywhere near the guys ahead of him, I think he was over 100 points behind. Was it Hamilton who finished 7th? Not really good enough, is it? And every other driver in that top 7, or in the top 8, I should say, really, when it comes to the top 4 teams, you know, they all got 2 wins at least, I think. Not even just like they all got 1 win. Every one of them got 2 wins, I believe, didn't they? So it's not great. It's really not great from Perez's point of view. Following the Monday meeting, Marco says the announcement of the driver lineups at both Red Bull and Racing Bulls will be made in a few days' time. RB is set to be rebranded as Racing Bulls. The CEO of that company has made that abundantly clear. It's pretty obvious they're going to do that, which it makes sense because a lot of people call them Racing Bulls anyway. I thought that was their full name, but they're just RB officially. So Yuki Tsunoda will get a test in the driver's title winning Red Bull in Abu Dhabi on Tuesday. We will wait for the results of the test before announcing a decision, said Marco. Tsunoda, however, is not regarded as a genuine contender, perhaps mainly because of his affiliation with Honda, who will switch to Aston Martin for 2026. The Japanese driver also has a reputation for hot-headedness. Please watch the last 24 races, Tsunoda pleaded with reporters in Abu Dhabi. See how many times I shouted on the radio, maybe only in the first race. If you look at the other drivers, I've definitely calmed down. I believe I have proved myself quite well. Everyone probably expected Daniel Ricciardo to go to Red Bull, and I was still able to improve. The big favourite to replace Perez, however, is Lawson. You keep smiling at me, the New Zealander grinned to reporters last Sunday. I know you're trying to get something out of me. I know where you're going, but right now I don't know what the future holds for me. I hope to find out in the next few days. When asked if is he expecting to wear navy blue or white overalls in 2025, Lawson continued, I hope I have a seat, that's all I care about right now. Obviously my priority is to be in Formula 1, so we'll see. Yeah, of course Lawson is not officially confirmed to be on the grid for 2025, but he will be, it's just a matter of where. Yeah, I mean for me, it's so tough, it's so tough. I think from a purely, let's take the finances out of it, because I think that's the reason why Perez has been allowed to stay on for as long as he has. I think it is a partly financial decision. I would say if you take the money out of it, then Lawson is a much better bet. He's performed much better in the time when Perez and Lawson have both been in Formula 1 recently. The last, 8 races, 7 races? I think it's just 6 races actually off the top of my head. But yeah, either way, it's something that it just makes sense from a racing point of view. I know there's finances involved in it. I know that's part of it. But I would say that anybody that goes up against Max Verstappen in that second seat in the Red Bull is going to be in for such a hard time. And Lawson is so inexperienced relatively. It's gonna be such a tough adjustment for him. But I think he's confident enough to be able to handle it. He carries himself quite well. He has at times not been that amazing in the RB this season, but at the same time, during this run recently, the RB hasn't been that amazing of a car either. So we'll see what happens, guys. I would think, from my point of view, it'd be more interesting. It'd be more interesting to have Liam Lawson in the Red Bull than it would be Perez, because we know what Perez is going to do, and we know Perez is not going to be particularly great when he's doing it. And in the past, Max Verstappen has been so good that Perez not being amazing has kind of, it's kind of papered over the cracks for it. They've still won the Constructors' Championship in 22 and 23 because Max was just that good. So yeah, that's my kind of take on it. I would like to see Lawson in the Red Bull, but I also wouldn't, because I feel like it'd destroy him potentially. It could well do. Look at Gasly, look at Albon. Look at Perez to an extent as well. All those guys have gone up against Max. Max has absolutely wiped the floor with him. And, in the case of Albon and Gasly, they've gone on to do amazing things in other teams since then. They are not bad drivers. Albon's pulled off miracles in that Williams. Gasly has pulled off miracles in that Alpine. He's done incredibly well at times. I think he's a fantastic driver. I really do. I really rate Gasly highly. And honestly, I rate Perez really highly as well, but in a midfield car. Clearly, he's not that amazing in a top car. That just doesn't work. But what would Lawson be like in a top car? We don't know. We've barely seen him in an F1 car. He's not even had a full season yet. So we'll see what he can do. I'm optimistic for him, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they keep going with Perez because of the finances. But guys, what do you think Red Bull should do? Has the time come for Perez to finally move on from that team or not? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Some sad news from the world of Formula 1 came out last night, and that is that Eddie Jordan, the former owner of Jordan Grand Prix between 1991 and 2005, has revealed that he is currently battling an aggressive form of cancer, this being bladder and prostate cancer, which has spread to his spine and pelvis as well. He has said that there is positive outcomes from his treatment so far, and I will take his word on that, but The fact that it is spread to different parts of his body, for me, that is a bad sign. But, I'm hoping that things will continue to improve for him. He sounds positive about it. I mean, he said there's positive outcomes there, so I have to take his word for it. And I just want to wish him all the best in his fight with this, because at the end of the day, I mean, kids these days will not know Jordan. They won't know what Jordan Grand Prix was. Like I said, they were a team in Formula 1 for 15 seasons. They had a lot of success in that time as well. They got wins with Damon Hill in Spa in 1998. They got a couple of wins with Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 1999 as well. Frentzen finishing third in the Drivers' Championship, I think, that year as well. He had an outside shot of challenging for the World Championship as well, with Schumacher having his injury and Hakkinen being a bit inconsistent. And I think they got third in the Constructors' Championship as well in 99, which, for a privateer team, to do what he did as a privateer team is something that, sadly, I don't think we'll ever see in Formula 1 ever again. Before 91, before they entered Formula 1, Jordan Grand Prix, well, Jordan, I suppose, Jordan Racing as it was known then, they actually, competed in series like Formula 3000. They had drivers like, I think Johnny Herbert drove for them, Martin Brundle drove for them, some fantastic drivers drove for them in the junior categories while they were making their way up. But then eventually they got to Formula 1 in 91, and that same year in 1991 they pulled off some incredible results, and they also gave a debut to a certain Michael Schumacher as well. Obviously only did one race, only retired on the first lap with that gearbox issue, but a star was born, as it were, after that, because he went to Benetton, won championships with them, went to Ferrari, won more championships, rewrote every record in the book. So, Jordan's place in Grand Prix history will always be there. It will always be there. They had some fantastic drivers over the years, not just Schumacher, but, the likes of Rubens Barrichello, Damon Hill, Ralf Schumacher, Giancarlo Fisichella. Some really, really great drivers. And EJ as well, Eddie Jordan, he was just such an amazing person to listen to. I'll admit, I don't really watch or listen to his podcast these days with David Coulthard, but I loved when he was on the BBC doing his pundit stuff. He was absolutely mad as a box of frogs, and I loved every moment of it. He was entertainment on a Sunday afternoon. Even when the Grand Prix racing itself was pretty dull, he always livened things up. His remarks, just the way he spoke as well. I love the way he spoke. Just something about his voice, just something about his tone. I don't know what it is, but it just always made me smile. So thank you for that, EJ, and thank you for being, again, I mean, the tag legend is thrown around a lot, and it's been thrown around for EJ, and I don't like using that word, lightly. I do joke about it quite a bit when I'm talking about serious stuff, though, like this. I don't want to use it lightly at the end of the day. But without a doubt, like I said, he's an icon of Formula 1. He was there for 15 seasons as a team owner. Jordan were always on the brink of bankruptcy pretty much every year. They were always on the limit. But he still mixed in with the big boys. And for me, what probably sums Jordan up the most in terms of his team in F1 was the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix, a race that Giancarlo Fisichella eventually won, despite Jordan having a terrible car by then. They were, the writing was on the wall by that point for Jordan. They had their days in Formula 1 were very much limited at that point. Didn't have a very good car at all. But Fisichella won the race, but he didn't actually win the race at the time, if you know what I mean, because eventually Kimi Räikkönen, was originally given that victory, and the trophy eventually came to Jordan. That was their last win in F1. It was all to do with like the red flag and the countback errors and stuff like that. So they won the race with the red flag there, despite not winning the race at the time, despite not stepping on the top step of the podium. And Fisichella's car was on fire in the pit lane. The winning car was on fire in the pit lane after the race. So that just sums Jordan up to me. A true maverick outfit, a privateer outfit. They had some of the most iconic liveries in F1. I mean, the Hornet livery of the late 90s, that was a thing of beauty. And again, like I said, we'll never see a privateer outfit like Jordan again in F1. The money is just too much. Only teams that are huge billion-dollar corporations can now compete in F1 effectively. Even the outfits that you might class as privateers like Haas and Williams, they're never going to get up there to win races and championships again, realistically. It's just not going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I can't see it in a month of Sundays. I just can't. And I think as well, something that shouldn't be overstated is the fact that Jordan Grand Prix, I think, is the only ever Irish team in Formula 1. Certainly the only team from Ireland or registered to the Republic of Ireland in F1 modern history, you know. So again, that just puts them on the map. That's a great thing for Irish motorsport, which I think again should not be downplayed. And the final thing as well, I'll just sign off with, right, is the fact that Jordan Grand Prix DNA is still running through Formula One today. After they went bust in 2005, they got bought out by Midland, which became Spiker, which eventually became Force India. Force India went out of business in 2018 and were bought by Lawrence Stroll. Stroll rebranded the team to Racing Point and then later rebranded the team to Aston Martin. Now, of course, the team has completely new headquarters and everything like that and new facilities these days, but they're still based in Silverstone, which is where Jordan was always based too. So, if Aston Martin one day wins a championship in Formula One, which could happen, it could well happen, I hope that Eddie Jordan is around to see it because he planted the seeds there in Silverstone, the factory seeds, and it sprouted into this amazing facility eventually with the financial might of the Stroll family there. And you know, I hope that he's around to see that, and I hope he gets better, and I wish him all the best because say what you want about Eddie Jordan, but there is never ever a dull moment with him. He is just fun no matter what, and I'm probably going to watch some old clips of him today on YouTube or something like that while I'm working because he's just so much fun. I loved it. And as well, the man with the best shirts in the business, apart from maybe that German pundit guy, I can't remember, I don't know his name, but yeah, Eddie Jordan had some of the best shirts in the business as well. Just go look up his fashion shit. I think he actually won a BBC award for it as well on the F1 coverage years ago, so that shows you how much he's valued. But yeah, all the best, EJ. I hope you get better. I know you won't be watching this, but I hope you get better soon. And yeah, things improve for you because, like I said, you are just someone who always makes me smile. There is never a dull moment. You just make boring things very fun. You make the uninteresting sound interesting. And that's a real talent in itself. So yeah, see you soon, guys, for some more content here on the F1Chronicle.com. Hopefully a bit more positive stuff than this. But yeah, and all the best to EJ as well. See you soon.